These cars, well, they'll bankrupt you. But if we didn't have to pay for maintenance and repairs, well, we'd own every single one of these in a heartbeat. First up is a Raging Bull. Guys, I can't believe that this car made this list, but the first gen pre-facelift Gallardo, specifically with that E-gear automated manual, could be the death of your retirement. Look, it's not all bad though. That early even firing 5-liter V10 gives you a pure F1 car symphony that I'm telling you right now, folks, is a sound that's second to none. And because this generation of the Gallardo is older and a bit more outdated, and a little bit crankier, you can pick them up for a pretty attractive price.
Which is a good thing, because you'll need all the savings you can get once that gearbox starts acting up. And it's not really an if, it's more of a when. The problem mostly stems from the design and logic of the clutch. It's not uncommon to see one smoke a clutch within 20,000 miles or even less, depending on how it's driven. In 2009, the car got updated with an Audi-sourced 5.2-liter V10, complete with a more robust and refined transmission, which is overall a more reliable, if slightly less charismatic, drivetrain.
So yeah, probably go for the facelift or LP car if reliability is important to you. Unfortunately, Maserati is pretty much synonymous with unreliable, but even though it might spend more time in the shop than on the road, we could never say no to this. That's because under the hood is an Italian stallion V8 from the house of the prancing horse, Ferrari.
Maserati and Ferrari teamed up on the F136 engine, good for 523 ponies, a 4.2 second 0 to 60, and when everything is working right, it's an absolute screamer. Unfortunately, it's let down by its notorious unreliability. Failing clutches, transmission gremlins, electronics that have a mind of their own, heck, even the interior is known to melt down if left out in direct sunlight for too long.
These cars are beautiful to drive, but trust me, rent one on Turo and get it out of your system. Now on paper, the BMW E60 M5 is one of the most impressive performance sedans Bavaria has ever produced. You see, when BMW released this generation of the M5, they were smack dab in the middle of running in Formula 1 as an engine supplier to Williams, and later running their own F1 team with Sauber. And BMW poured all that know-how into a screaming, high-revving, lightweight V10 engine good for 500 ponies. They linked it up to their fancy new SMG transmission. It was the fastest four-door sedan in the world at the time it was released, capable of highway speed in just 4 seconds.
And while all that sounds great, and I'm a huge M5 fan, the E60 M5 has some major problems. Throttle actuator failures, rod bearing issues, transmission problems, a whole slew of electrical problems, and ultimately catastrophic engine failures are a relatively common occurrence with this Bavarian beast, which is why it's probably better to never own one. But if someone ever offers you the chance to drive one, it's an F1 inspired engine in a BMW.
Actually, don't drive one, because, and if you're like me, you'll probably try to justify those repair costs and all those unknown problems. It's gonna hurt the bank account. You know you're in for a good time with a Wankel. You know, the Rotary engine. Just get your mind out of your gutter. And Mazda's FD RX-7 is the pinnacle of Rotary sports car performance. It'll make you pine for the days when you could buy a brand new, awesome sounding Rotary car right off the lot.
But when you realize just how much oil these things drink, how much the apex seals take a beating, and just how generally finicky keeping a Rotary on the road is for daily driver duty, it's pretty clear why Mazda did away with them back in the 2000s. Especially when Mazda tried to fix the shortcomings and make the thing actually meet emission standards with the Renesis in the RX-8. Because frankly, well, that engine was a disaster.
That said, I mean, who wouldn't want to drive one of these? The RX-7 is a work of art, quite possibly the best looking Japanese sports car of all time. And that said, heck, I'd even take an RX-8 if they came with an engine that wasn't a ticking time bomb. When the L322 version of the Range Rover was introduced in 2001, the whole world, okay, maybe mostly just people who lived in the UK and pretty much every early 2000 celebrity, was pretty darn excited. You see, the Range Rover was known as a luxurious 4x4 that could handle themselves in just about any situation. And the new 3rd gen Range Rover, internally known as the L322, was set to take things even further up market. Plus, the company was owned by BMW now, so German engineering with British design? What could be better than that?
Well, the answer is just about anything. Those early L322s were a nightmare. Timing chain failures, valve stem failures, oil leaks, coolant leaks, transmission problems, electrical problems, air suspension problems. I mean, guys, the friggin' audio system isn't even reliable. Not to mention, the drains for the sunroof pretty much universally disintegrate, leading to a leaking interior, which means the smell of mold is pretty much a permanent feature of these rides. That being said, Land Rover fixed pretty much everything in 2006, and believe it or not, the Jaguar-powered 06 and up models actually aren't too bad.
Look, Land Rovers, when they're working right, are awesome. It just, they, don't often. Sort of like this next car. Okay, is it just me, or should you hit the like button? Because this is one of the most beautiful Ferraris ever built. And for good measure, it sounds even better than the thing freaking looks. It's one of the first modern Ferraris that could be a comfortable cruiser or an absolute Italian stallion terror on steroids. Trick for its time was the F1 style paddle gear shifters, a taste of Formula One technology on public roads.
Okay, Brad, I'm gonna stop you right there. Because truth is, as much as I love the F355, that F1 gearbox is hot garbage. Even if it is kind of fun to drive. And assuming nothing ever goes wrong on the car during your ownership, which is unlikely, regular maintenance denotes that every 5 years, regardless of mileage, you've got to replace the timing belt, a job that pays you to remove the engine first. These cars are difficult to work on and parts are ridiculously expensive.
But I almost don't care. I want one so bad. A Bond car, a glorious V12, and a sleek, muscular design that has aged better than Stacy's mom. You see, the Vanquish is a standout in Aston Martin's storied history and has cemented itself as a true icon. And when this thing first debuted, it had an innovative transmission system, paddle-shifted automated manual gearbox, which helped this big-body GT car knock off lightning-fast shifts.
Or sky-high repair bills. The gearbox on the Bondmobile is so problematic that Aston Martin offers a manual swap service that they do back at the factory. Yeah, like you ship your car back to England and they swap in a manual gearbox to the tune of around $40,000. That being said, I want a Vanquish more than I want both my eyes. So, like Brad with his Ferrari, I'm still totally in.
Sadly, Bentley just announced the end of production of their W12 engines, which might tempt you to try and purchase one of these older Continentals to have all 12 turbocharged cylinders at your disposal. And while it might seem like a primo luxury ride, unless it was absolutely perfectly maintained across its life, heck, even if it was perfectly maintained, well, you're in for a ton of headaches.
First and foremost, just the basic cost of maintenance can be enough to make your eyes water. Even if you buy one at a massive discount, you're still buying parts for a car that cost $200,000 when new, which means brakes, an oil change, or even a seemingly basic repair can easily put you out several $1,000s. Trust me, I've worked on quite a few of them.
That said, if we weren't picking up the tab, we'd gladly road trip one of these beasts absolutely anywhere. Heck, it would be way more comfy on a road trip than the Viper. The B5 S4 is an absolute icon. Trav and I actually owned one for a few years back in the day, and honestly, we both really liked that car. That twin-turbo V6, manual transmission, and all-wheel drive made it a killer daily driver.
What we didn't like so much, though, was just how much it cost us to keep on the road. I mean, guys, I was working for Audi at the time, and even getting parts at cost and obviously paying zero labor, I think it's the only car we've ever owned that we actually lost money on. Yeah, not ideal. From turbochargers to the cam seals, the body control module to the heater core, those old B5 S4s will always hold a special place in my heart. Just don't know if it should ever necessarily hold a spot in yours.
So, those are some of our favorite cars that are unfortunately pretty awful to own, but we still love them anyway. What do you guys think? What other cars do you low-key need in your life, even though they will make you absolutely miserable when they drain your bank account? Let us know in the comments below. Also, if you enjoyed the vid, like, subscribe, turn on that notification bell, and check out this Ideal vid up here, or whatever YouTube recommends you watch next. I'm Brad, this is Ideal, and promise me one thing: keep living Ideal lifestyle.